Okay, the meeting will now come to order. We'll begin with introductions of members and seating of alternates. Let's see, we will start with town staff. So here in the room, we have Dawn.
Dawn Guy, recording secretary.
And online, we have John.
Don Guskowski, interim planner.
Okay, anyone else from town staff? Okay, for commission members, we'll begin introductions from my far left.
Tom Brassfield.
Victoria Chet.
Bob Ellsworth.
Chantel Foster.
Ken Kearns.
Okay, Tom, would you please be seated for Carolyn Freeman?
Certainly.
And Ken, would you please be seated for Robert Taylor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is to accept the agenda. May I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda is accepted. So the first item of business is continuation of the public hearing for application 21-12, which is the planning and zoning's application for amendments to the zoning regulations. Now, where we stand with this is that we have been given comments by our town attorney, and John and Carrie, who's the town attorney, have been working to get a date to get together to clarify some of her comments. And our feeling at this time is that we should defer any discussion on this until our next meeting, before which John and Carrie will get together and review the proposed changes.
Some additional
Yeah,
information.
and we have received some information from another town which gives examples of lot diagrams which look to use good terminology that we might want to consider in some of our regulations. So that's just for reference for commission members. So if there is anyone in the public or online who would like to make any public statements regarding this application at this time, we would welcome them. Otherwise, we'll continue the public hearing to our next meeting. So anyone in the room, indicate if you'd like to speak, or if you're online, I guess there's a chat box, or raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you. Okay, seeing none, we will continue the public hearing for application 21-12 until our meeting on June 16th. So the next item of business is a public hearing for application 21-16, 264 Main Street, request for special permit for change of use on second floor from commercial to residential apartments. Application and property of 264 Main LLC, Assessors map 28, lot 48, zone B3. May I have a motion to open the public hearing, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public hearing for application 21-16 is now open. Would someone like to speak on behalf of this application? Yes. If you would, please approach the podium here and introduce yourself and state your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Peter Falanda. I'm the owner of 264 Main LLC. I live at 154 South Road in Portland, Connecticut. I've made this application because the current commercial rental times, it's hard to get tenants into commercial spaces due to the nature of COVID, everybody moving away from the office. And since the zoning allows for the special application, I decided to file for it. It would help us from a business sense to bring in some residential tenants into there, and I think it would be fitting for the environment around Main Street as well. So I don't think it takes away anything from what Main Street has already.
Okay, thank you. If you would, wait, in case anyone has any questions for you. Any questions from either commission members or members of the public?
I think we received an email saying that it is one two-bedroom and two one-bedroom units, so 3 units in total?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact format of it, but I think that's the best that we could do to establish that. I haven't started working with an architect, even though I have started talking with a gentleman from Portland here. And, you know, I would obviously let his creative juices flow as to what the formatting of the apartments could be. But based on the space, I don't really see you getting, or myself getting much more than that.
Because I know Jeff had a concern about dedicated parking spots for the people who would live there.
Yeah.
So,
I did write him an email. I spoke to Jeff last week, and I wrote him an email back. He said he was going to try to reply and actually have it incorporated into the meeting minutes. But we have 6 dedicated parking stalls in the rear of the building, which would handle more than the capacity of that building. Plus, we have an adjoining public lot in back, so it should be, we should have more than capacity. I think the precedent in the past has been that if you don't have on-site parking for lots on Main Street, that the potential is to utilize some of the public parking as well, so.
Right, so for commission members' benefit, we did, in the package that was delivered just to us just this evening, we did get let's see, the email from Pete. So, and basically, it's what he just told us. Bedroom count will be dictated by architect's ability to lay out space. Approved, parking should not be unit 6 dedicated parking stalls.
and there's a dumpster pad there, but there's no dumpster currently?
No, there
Oh,
is.
there is, okay.
There's a dumpster and a grease
Yeah,
trap
okay.
existing.
So I had a question.
Yes, go ahead, Tom.
Peter, in the package, we received
Yes, sir.
an
Looked kinda
overhead
grainy, huh?
photo of the site. There's an area blocked out. Is that the property line? Or does the property go back further?
Yeah, you can go ahead and take a closer look, sure.
Approach the bench.
You may, yeah.
Yeah, that is
This
the,
is Malloy's.
that's the assessor's map, that's,
Yeah.
Okay, so
Roughly
that's
represents,
roughly,
yeah.
okay.
This was the old
Malili's,
supermarket, right? That's what we're talking about.
And is the
Above
dumpster refuse pad on the, within that, or is it on the public?
no, that's within that.
Okay, I can't really tell from the photo.
Yeah, that big oak tree in the back blocks it.
Okay, other questions or comments from commission members or from members of the public? Again, if you're online, please raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you. Okay. Seeing none, may I have a motion to close the public hearing, please? And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Any questions, discussion amongst commission members? Okay. Hearing none, I believe we have a motion for this application. So, let's see, Victoria, would you be willing to read that motion,
All right.
please? That is for 21-16.
Okay. Motion to approve application number 2116, 264 Main Street. Request for special permit for change of use within an existing building from commercial use to residential apartments. Applicant and owner 264 Main LLC, Assessors Map 28, Lot 48, Zone B3. Approval is based on proposed interior floor plans as produced by applicant/owner and entitled 264 Main Street Schematic Design Proposed, as well as a planning and zoning general application form with the following attachments: existing conditions layout, proposed schematic design, aerial photo of property with annotation indicating no exterior changes, warranty deed, and based on testimony presented and subject to the following instructions and conditions integral to this application. 1, up to 3 upper-level dwelling units will be permitted with a total of 4 bedrooms, with final interior layout to be approved by the building official and fire marshal. 2, per applicant correspondence with town engineer dated May 31st, 2022, up to 4 of the 6 off-street parking spaces to the rear of the existing building will be dedicated and made available to residential occupants of the building. That the certified letter of approval be filed on the land records within 180 days per ZR section 10.5.2.f.2.a. This requirement must be met prior to the issuance of a zoning permit. 4, the new dwelling units shall satisfy all building and fire codes prior to occupancy. Reasons. The proposal conforms to sections 5.1, 10.4.b of the zoning regulations and is reflective of the goals of the Portland Plan of Conservation and Development.
Okay, may I have a second for the motion, please?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, the application is approved.
Congratulations.
All right, send it down that way for signatures. Okay. Next item is public hearing for application 21-17, 143 Marlborough Street. Request for special permit for small engine repair business to be located in existing rear building. Application of Chester Dumas, property of 143 Marlborough Street LLC, Assessors Map 20, Lot 214, Zone B2. May I have a motion to open the public hearing, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, public hearing for application 21-17 is open. Would someone like to speak on behalf of this application? Yep, same deal.
Glad I'm second then. I'm Chester Dumas, it's my shop. Basically just moving the operation from 2 doors down over to a slightly bigger space, actually much bigger space. Nothing else is really gonna change.
For people that aren't familiar with your shop, could you give a little background about what you do there?
I just outdoor power equipment shop. I service basically anything with a small engine that does work. Lawn equipment, construction equipment, like small stuff, like a plate compactor, that kind of thing. I don't get into any, motorcycles or anything, any kind of ATVs or anything. I just don't want to be bothered with it. So it's basically stuff that does work. I work on, I service the engines, I service the equipment, the whole machine.
So this is an existing business, been in existence for a number of years, correct?
2 years. Yeah.
2 years, okay.
And I basically outgrew the shop I'm in the day I opened the doors.
And there are no sales of new equipment or used equipment?
No, all I do is service machines, and the only thing I sell is the parts to fix them. And I don't sell any used parts or anything, it's all new. And I order as I need it.
So your building is located in the lower, is it the rear of,
The building I'm going to be using is in the back.
right. Isn't that at a lower elevation than?
It's kind of, the property goes down to the back.
It's kind of a big hill.
And is the lot an L-shaped lot?
Well, I think it's pretty much square. There's a pad over on the
Oh,
right-hand
that's a
side.
pad,
It's
okay.
showing a building, but it's not a building.
this. If you look at the drawing. But that's not part of what your building would
No,
be
just
the-
a building in the back.
Okay.
Okay. Questions from commission members or questions from any members of the public? Again, if you're online, please raise your hand. We'll acknowledge you and hear your question. Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to close the public hearing for application 21-17?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the public hearing for application 21-17 is now closed. Discussion amongst commission members, questions?
What color, I think I know exactly which building this is. I've driven by it, and I tried to figure it out, but I wasn't quite sure. What color is this building?
The building up top is white, I
No, the
think.
one that you want to move into.
It's
like
it's like, yeah, it's
like
kind of
red,
white,
brown?
grayish white.
Oh, it's grayish
kinda.
white.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's down behind where the old karate studio used to be.
yeah. Yeah,
It's
down
kinda-
the hill, right?
Yeah, it's kind of buried back there.
Yeah. And there's another little building back there too, right?
No, just the one. There's a pad. It looks like, I don't know if there was a building in the past or if it was just never built, but it is indicated on the drawings, but it's just a pad.
So you have water and sewer. Do you have any,
There's nothing in
There's
that back
nothing.
building. No, just power.
just power?
Yeah.
I think I remember when you opened your shop, you talked about disposal of oil and
Yeah,
All
at the
that.
present time, I'm just bringing it to
the dump,
car
right?
parts.
Oh, the
The
car parts.
car parts place. I'm working with, my son who's a plumber, does work for Tredebi, and I've done work for them in the past, so I'm actually working on getting a deal. I have a 5-gallon can for oil. I take that in once a month.
Right.
I mean, typically the stuff I'm working on, it's a half a quart at a time. You know, a really big engine on a tractor would be a quart and a half. So it's really not massive amounts of oil. I've worked on one water-cooled tractor since I started 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's no antifreeze. I mean, there's really nothing else, just the oil.
Yeah.
Any metal, we bring to the scrapyard.
What about batteries, if you replace batteries?
I just bring them back where I buy them from the local Napa.
Yep.
I get great deals from him, and I bring him any batteries, and he takes. He doesn't care what they, but just anything extra I get other than buying, he'll buy them. So, bring the batteries there. I don't use a lot of chemicals. I have a cleaning tank that's contained that I use for cleaning and carb cleaner and stuff like that, but very little.
What are you gonna do for signage, if anything? What are you thinking?
We kind of have to, as far as I know, we're gonna have to deal with we have signage at the 163. We'll probably leave it there. I don't think there's nothing, my son is gonna use the garage that I'm using for storage. I'll probably put up a sign there redirecting anybody back down the street, and then we'll have to deal with it as it comes. I imagine we'll put a sign up on the building
On the building.
itself. And then, as far as out front, we're gonna have to deal with the state on that, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So, that's a whole different project. But I get a lot of my customers are either word of mouth or over the internet. So, you don't need the signage that much.
Just so people can find you, really.
Yeah, well,
Not as
that's,
advertisement, just,
that will be, yeah,
I
that's
mean,
the.
you're not gonna be easy to find there.
No. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I need the space.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to take the hit on the signage.
Right.
Because it's just, especially now that I kind of have the building lined up, it feels like every time I turn around, I'm backed into a corner. So, you know.
That's great, though. It's a good problem to have, right?
It is, but it's basically raining lawnmowers right now, and I need the space to work on.
Okay, any further questions by commission members? All right, then, we do have a motion for this application. Chantel, could I ask you to read that motion? 21-17.
To approve application 2117, 143 Marlborough Street, request for special permit for small engine repair business to be located in an existing rear building. Application of Chester Dumas, property of 143 Marlborough Street, LLC. Assessors map 20, lot 214, zone B2. Approval is based on narrative by Chester Dumas of Our Power Equipment dated May 5th, 2022, as well as a planning and zoning general application form with the following attachments: aerial photo of property and assessor's property card detailing location and footprint of the existing rear building, warranty deed, and based on testimony presented and subject to the following instructions and conditions integral to this application. 1, per comments from town engineer dated May 24th, 2022, the applicant attests that there are sufficient parking spaces available on site to be dedicated to the proposed use in existing waste storage / removal facilities are sufficient for proposed use or will be otherwise provided for before occupancy. 2, any proposed signage will require a signage permit and must conform to zoning regulations section 8.4. 3, that the certified letter of approval be filed on the land records within 180 days per zoning regulation section 10.5.2.f.2.a. This requirement must be met prior to the issuance of a zoning permit. 4, the changes to the interior of the existing building must comply with all applicable building and fire codes before occupancy. Reasons: the proposal conforms to section 5.1 and 10.4.b of the zoning regulations and is reflective of the goals of the Portland Plan of Conservation and Development.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, application 21-17 is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good luck.
you. Oh, no.
Okay, let's see. Oh, yeah, we can go this way. Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. Chantel started.
Sorry.
I'll do it. When I get a breath here, we'll do it. Okay, so we'll move on to our regular meeting then. So next item of business is application 21-13, 264 Freestone Avenue. Site plan review for excavation to construct a new 18,000 square foot building. Application and property Global Freestone LLC, Assessors map 20, lot 179, zone I, industrial. I believe there is a letter that has been submitted requesting extension of this application. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of that? Okay, there's no one here for that, but we do have a motion.
We do.
So, Tom, could I ask you to read that motion, please, for
Sure.
21-13?
Motion to approve the extension request and continue the application deliberations for up to 65 days for application 21-13, 264 Freestone Avenue. Request for site plan review for excavation work to construct a new 18,000 square foot building for contractor trade units. Application and property of Global Freestone LLC. Assessors map 20, lot 179, zone I, industrial. Reasons: applicant requested extension to fully respond to town engineer's comments.
May I have a second?
Seconded, Tim Turner.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, the motion to extend the application is approved. I started it here, Tom, so, let's see. Tom, you made the motion, so you'll have to sign in two places. Okay, let's move on then. So our next item is staff report. So I'll just run down the list, and if anybody has anything, please stop me. Town center village reviews, bond reductions, zoning regulation work group, updates on Brainerd
Yes, sir.
Place. So we do have some information on this that we received, that I heard today. And John, if you could help me out too, I think you've been involved. The first, I heard that there was a fee paid for erosion and sediment control, which would be a precursor to any construction beginning. And then there's been some activity to merge two lots together. And I believe, John, you were involved in just testifying that there are no zoning violations on either lot. Anything additional you'd like to add to that, John?
No, that's correct, and we submitted a letter to, I believe, either the applicant's attorney or the attorneys for the financing, who are doing their due diligence on the closeout of those small lots to be combined. So those should be proceeding to be combined, I would say, probably in the next few weeks.
Okay. Thank you. And then the last update I have is that the last remaining occupied house on Perry Avenue has been vacated. So presumably that means that demolition could start at some point in the near future of that one property.
I thought it was already vacated.
There had been a resident up until recently,
Right.
Yes.
so. Yep. Anything additional on Brainerd Place, John, you'd like to add in your work?
Nothing on my end. I think we're cautiously optimistic that they're moving forward. But I think a lot depends on how the selectmen manage the proposed, changes to the tax abatements and tax incentives. Because I think that will put a lot of pressure and weight on the developers to move forward.
Okay, thank you. So next item is correspondence, and let's see, a couple of things. We received in our package this evening 2 letters from the DOT. One is, I would consider these both to be for information only at this point. One was for Central Arms at the corner of 17 and 17A, the gun range. So the DOT, I guess, has some objections to work occurring in the right-of-way, in the state right-of-way. I don't know, John, are you involved in this at all? I'm just seeing this letter.
I have not been. I have the letter as well.
Yep.
It's just, they're on a state road. It's just a necessary step they need to make.
Okay, so there's just some action that needs to happen on their part before the state approves it, then it sounds like. So that is some information regarding an application that we did approve.
I'm just curious, which,
Is that-
this one is for the gun range, right? The-
One is for 1390 Main Street, and one is
Right.
for 1200.
Right, so yes, the one that's addressed to
Judy.
Ms. Judy Schuler.
And then what's this one?
Okay, so this one is one that did not come before this commission. Apparently zoning approval was not required. This is some site development that's going on along 17A. And again, it's a series of steps that are needed to be followed before they can proceed further. So we were copied as planning and zoning. I just wanted to share that information with us, with the group. And then, any questions about those? I'm not sure I can answer much. Okay. Next item, I guess, Chantel, would be the May COG meeting that you attended. Would you like to brief us on that?
Well,
We did-
I just want to pass along what was passed along to the participants, and that was an overview of the 2022 legislative wrap-up that was put together, and just gives an overview of a lot of the things that happened during that session, and I'm just passing it along.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
could I add something quickly to that?
Please do, John.
So, just a couple of things that are relevant to that may be relevant to the commission. The first is that the state did, and I'm not sure if this is in River Cog's update, but the state did, pass an extension, basically a permanent, allowance for, commissions to decide whether or not they'd like to have in-person, virtual, or hybrid meetings. But there are two, and so, if this commission wishes to continue to, have in-person meetings, they're within the rights to do that. But with two very important caveats. The first is if the commission chooses to hold an entirely virtual meeting and a member of the public wishes to participate, but is unable to access the meeting via the computer or something like that, the town is obliged to establish basically a portal for them. So that might be, a laptop or computer terminal at town hall or at the library, something like that, that will be able to access the public meeting. And so that's if a member of the public, submits a request in writing at least 24 hours ahead of the meeting. The second important caveat is if the commission wishes to hold a meeting in person, as we are due to do, and any member of the commission, not the public, not staff, and any member of the commission wishes to participate remotely, you are obliged to accommodate and essentially, make a hybrid meeting as we've been doing right now. So it's while whereas I appreciate this accommodation, I'm not entitled to it, but all of you fellow commissioners are entitled to a virtual accommodation should you wish it. So that's one update. And the other important update I would call your attention to is that during the approval of the budget implementer, which is kind of tends to be an omnibus bill that includes, in addition to the budget, a number of other small legislative changes. There actually was an important change to the cannabis legislation that was passed during last year's special session. The original cannabis bill had placed an initial cap of retail licenses and micro-cultivator licenses in municipalities at 1 per 25,000 population. So a community of Portland size, less than 25,000, would only get one retail license and one micro-cultivator license. In the implementer, that cap was lifted, which means that the state will not be putting any arbitrary or numerical caps on the number of retail or micro-cultivator licenses that municipalities, that can locate in the municipality. So if Portland wishes to limit the number, either total licenses or separation distances or what have you, I know obviously a couple months ago you already approved the first, presumably retail. If you wish to limit future, you will have to do that through zoning. The state will not be imposing that cap. So that's another important clarification, something that has changed.
Thank you.
That's very interesting,
That
John.
is
Now,
interesting.
I'm just curious, was there any reason given for the decision to lift the cap?
I don't know this specifically, but it's my understanding from folks in the know that it was basically a civil rights and opportunities group that was sort of advising the state when it came to putting in place its cannabis licensing procedure. Basically complained that these artificial number of caps unfairly disadvantage, the lower income retailers and, entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is very interesting. I mean, that's, yeah, okay. Well, I think we'll be revisiting our cannabis regulations in the near future. So, okay, anything else, John?
Did that go into effect immediately? The lifting of that it did?
Yes.
Okay.
It did. However, the state still does not have this entire licensing process up and running yet. So there haven't been any retail licenses issued. They're still working through that application and selection procedure. So it's, nothing's happening tomorrow. But yes, the lifting of the cap is effectively.
So we need to get on it. Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm just thinking to myself here, in the absence of any regulation in place prohibiting 2 or 3 or 4 in Portland, then I guess there could be other applications, right?
That's slippery as nice.
There could. I mean, it may be that town is interested, and if you feel like you need time to get your head around it, you can certainly be able to put in place a moratorium.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because all of our decisions were based on the fact that the state had a cap.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's not a bad thing to do, to give us a moment to.
Right, so let's see. John, could I ask you to work with Liz on drafting a motion for our next meeting to, let's see, put a moratorium in place on additional cannabis approvals at this point?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, could we just say that we would just allow one, like in our regulations, just kind of, is that a possibility?
If we agree 1 is the right number, I think we got.
We don't have anything in the regs right now, do we?
It's
Other than
allowed,
we
it's
had
allowed.
we have a proposal.
No, it's allowed. Right now, it's allowed.
It's allowed, but there's no limit.
Correct.
Other
Well,
than
we
we thought
were,
the state
we
was
were,
gonna do it.
yeah, we were
We were
depending on
relying
that.
on the state to.
So if someone were to come forward this week, they'd be in the process.
Mhm.
Yep.
So, yeah, I agree with the moratorium
Okay.
until we think about what we want to do.
Okay, thank you. And then for commission members' review, if you recall at our last meeting, there was a discussion about the property on Brownstone Avenue that has had several appearances before the commission in the past. And their most recent application was denied. So we requested background information on the previous applications. And Liz was kind enough to put together packages for us that include the applications, the minutes from the meetings, and so on and so forth. So we won't be able to take any action on this tonight, but I would ask that people review this, and at our next meeting, we can perhaps discuss, and with John's help, I think, help provide some guidance to these people as far as these applicants, as far as what sort of structure would be allowed on that property, if any. So there's quite a large package here that Liz put together for us, so.
This is, we just received at the beginning of this meeting tonight,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
this will give us time to look at it. Okay, gotcha.
We'll need time. There's quite a bit here.
Yeah, there is.
And the other item, it's not really under correspondence, but it's under other. Dan Dan Beret has accepted a position in the Land Use Department. And I believe the title of his, and I may get this wrong, so don't quote me. I believe it's Land Use Administrator, but I'm not positive on that. So he will be joining on June 20th. I think, does everybody?
What was that date again?
The June 20th.
20th?
So I know some of us know Dan. He
I know Dan.
worked previously. So you know Dan?
I know, Dan.
Ken, do you know Dan? Okay. Victoria, do you know him?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so he predated you?
Dan
Okay.
very well.
So he worked in the land use department previously, several years ago.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
He
he's
was
worked,
zoning enforcement, wasn't he?
yeah. He has been working down in Old Lyme, and he's making the move back, so. So June 20th is when we'll have some additional help in the land use office. Yes,
What is his last name?
Beret,
How do you spell it?
Bourret. Sure.
And is there gonna be some overlap, John, with, when Dan is on, you guys?
Yes, so Dan is basically taking the planning role. He's not taking on the zoning enforcement officer role, when he starts. Basically replacing Mary's position rather than his former zoning position. So, it appears that we, for the time being, will still be serving the town as, zoning officers. We probably won't be staffing, planning, and building commission, that'll be Dan's gig. But yeah, we'll be around and able to, bridge, sort of the transition. But, we already, that well covered through, Liz's outstanding work and then, we'll be around.
Okay.
Did you see the letter that I sent to Liz about the signage? I didn't see that in this packet. She had mentioned that we would be
Yes.
talking about that.
Okay, thank you.
I would like
That
to
had
talk
slipped
about
my
that.
mind. Yes, if you would, Victoria, go ahead, please.
So, I was approached by the gentleman that owned Concentric Brewery down under the bridge, and they are concerned about the lack of signage for, people can't find them. And it was their understanding that, I guess in talking to John, that all they needed was the zoning enforcement officer to sign off on some kind of signage on the corner of Marlborough Street and Pickering, where Portland Automotive is and the car wash. That street that runs down to Standard Nap, into that industrial area behind the storage, past the Quonset hut. So they had been discussing putting some signage there to direct people. They're the only, besides the Quonset hut, they're the only retail establishment down there. Everyone else is industrial. And so their understanding was that they just needed John to sign off on that. And we had talked about having signage there. I think as a commission at one point, we just sort of discussed it, and all felt that it would be good, if I recall, that it would help the businesses if they could be found. But there was something to do with the state, because it's a state road, and putting the signage there. And so they're wondering what they need to do to kind of direct people to their business. There's another sign that's down in front of the storage facility that has two businesses listed as part of the industrial park, and they're not listed on that sign. And they're just really kind of hard to find. So they're looking for some support from us and some guidance to help them become more visible.
So this would be considered what I would call off-site signage or advertising. right? It's not, it wouldn't be on their property.
Correct.
Wouldn't be near their property, it would be kind of a roadmap to their
Correct.
facility.
Correct. And I think it's interesting because there are a number of businesses, like the gentleman with the engine repair shop, you know. I mean, there's really no, there are a lot of little businesses that are hidden away. Like the Brownstone Discovery Park, you know, we have a sign that points you down the road to the Brownstone Discovery Park. And, and that, you know, and that's on 17, that's on Main Street, right? So I think that it would be great if we could come up with some way of helping other businesses that are off the beaten track to be discovered, especially as we move into this busy season where we have a lot of people from out of town coming into town to our golf courses and to the Discovery Park and to the marinas, and, you know, it's just, it's kind of a missed opportunity for them if they can't be seen.
And as far as their building is concerned, I mean, you can see the building as you're coming over the bridge, but you can't get, you know, it's not like you can get there.
You can, you know, you have to really look to see the building,
Right.
and if you were to actually try and read the sign from the bridge, you'd
Right.
be in peril.
It would be dangerous.
You know,
Yeah.
and there's no sign that takes you
Don't
from
take
the
you around
bridge,
back.
making
Right.
the right to let you know what's down there, whether it be industrial or not. The storage place is clearly visible. But, you know, anything that's kind of out of your peripheral vision is not. And so then you come down off the bridge, you make a right, and, you know, where do you turn to find them? You don't, there's no way to really get there. And
So
so.
sending them down Pickering, 'cause that's the way somebody would
Well,
go.
that's
If you were-
one of the
If you were coming over the
solutions. I
bridge,
mean-
is that the way you would go? Is that what's the
You know, I
way-
think if you were coming over the bridge, I think you'd probably go down by the storage.
Once you know it's there.
Once you know it's there. But, you know, whatever's gonna happen with signage at that intersection, I mean, it's all kind of, you know, I think what their question is how do we get a sign on Marlborough Street? And-
John, would that require state approval?
Yeah, so I don't know if people saw it, I had sort of flashed, I think, what the intersection question on the screen. That would probably be entirely, you know, to be visible, that sign probably have to be relatively close to the road, and would almost certainly be within the state right of way. So it's actually not clear to me what town rules would, I suppose the town signage regulations have to be satisfied, but it would really be entirely up to the state, what would be allowed. Most towns generally regulate signage by the parcel and by the building that it supports. This would be a freestanding sign, not directly affiliated with any building, and frankly, without any parcel, because it would be state right of way. As far as, you know, and so it's an interesting question. I think it's primarily state support. I think the state would probably, DOT would probably look for some local, you know, consent that what was being proposed was allowable in the town. And it's not really, wouldn't really be associated with the parcel per se, so it's kind of an interesting question.
Have they approached the Economic Development Commission? It sounds like a problem bigger
That's
than
a-
one
that's a
business.
good-
I think it's a problem bigger than one business. I think,
Sure,
I think
yeah.
it's,
Yeah,
you know,
put
the
it-
signage in town, I think, is really, I think there are all kinds of issues with
I
the
agree.
signage in
There's
town.
a lack of
And
signage.
lack of and overuse of other kinds of signs, which aren't really even allowed, but we don't enforce that. And so I think signage is a very large issue, but, you know, you see the sign to the Brownstone Discovery Park, and, you know, that, it would be great if we could, as a town, support those businesses in that way that are off the beaten track somehow, and make that happen for them.
Another example I can think of is Portland Boatworks has a sign at the corner of 66 and Grove
That's right.
for their
That's
business
right.
that's down the road.
That's and it's,
Yep.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, there are things like, well, we have a sign for the town hall too, don't we? I mean, we have it's kind of, you have to do that sometimes.
So what would be the next step for them? I mean, where do we go? What do we do? Where do we go from here to try and,
I think the first step would be to see what is allowed for signage in zoning regulations, and to see if there is a category of allowable sign that someone could take advantage of and go to the state and say, listen, if we can use your land, we are allowed to have this type of sign. And then they would get their approval from the state and then come to you for that approval, demonstrating that they had, the allowance to place on state land. And I would think they'd be part of the state.
Would that be Department of Transportation they would go to, or?
Yes, yeah, the relevant district office, I'll confess, I'm not sure what district Portland is in. But you talked, actually, I think there was a letter in there signed by Carlos Wimberly, so I believe that District 2 is Norwich. Which means you talk to the rights of way people in Norwich.
talk to who? I'm sorry.
Rights of way people?
Rights of way, the point person in the Norwich DOT office, his name is Carlos Wimberly.
Yeah, he is the one who signed these letters here. Yep. So there's an address on this stationery too, that letter that we got, so.
I think that the going to the economic development is also a very kind of good thing,
Well, when
because
you say there's a sign that lists only two, I think I can picture the sign,
yeah,
and there's blanks,
yeah, lots of blanks.
so
Yep. Yep.
somebody could buy some letters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, I've lived in this town for a long time, and when they were proposing to open concentrics, I had the hardest time figuring out where the heck it was gonna be.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
Yeah.
It's hard to find. And now they have, they've hired a chef and they built a kitchen for him. And so they're serving some tasty bites, and they're trying to,
So
they have an
that-
outdoor patio. It's like they're trying to do something.
So let me ask you, do you think they're trying to attract random people to their place? Because in today's world with GPS, if you know I want to go to Concentrics, right, first thing I do is look up the address and GPS it.
Yeah, I think
know?
they're wanting to be seen. They're wanting to be, a visual presence somehow in town.
Okay. Yep.
I understand they have another issue, I don't know if it's not getting people there, it's getting people back out of there.
Oh.
Because a lot of folks don't know exactly how to leave Concentric to get up onto the bridge correctly, so they're coming
That's
up
right, they're coming up and having to
near
turn around.
the storage place and then trying to cross
Oh.
lanes,
Yeah,
Oh.
which is extremely dangerous, so there should be some directional signage down there
I think
also.
so, yeah. Middletown,
You know.
just something when you pull out of their parking lot that,
And it is something you wouldn't know if you
Right.
weren't familiar with it.
Yeah.
Well, that's a weird location.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for
Thank
reminding
you.
me about that.
I'm looking at the regs, and
Yes.
section 814, there's a discussion of signs, and I think off-premise signs is what they would need to look at. But
That's what it sounds like, doesn't it?
it's pretty confusing to read though, so somebody needs to sit down with them and
that's just a shock.
Try to-
Maybe we should do another text amendment.
try to understand it. I wouldn't try to explain it right now, that's a quick look.
I've also been looking at some other towns' signage regs, so, but we won't
give you a packet of those.
Okay. Okay, let's see. So that, I believe, is all I have for items under correspondence, per se. So next item of business is public comment. So the commission will now hear any brief comments from the public at this time. So if you're in the room here, please let us know if you'd like to speak, or if you're online, there's a chat box, or raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Next item of business is to approve the minutes from May 19th. Let me see if I can find them quickly. Thank you very much. So present at that meeting were myself, Chantel, Robert, Carolyn, Victoria, and Tom. So Tom, you must not have been seated.
Nope.
So let's see, we do have a quorum here tonight. So may I have a motion to approve the minutes from 5:19?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
I'm
I
not
don't
sure
know.
you can now.
Okay.
I think Chantel.
Chantel, would you
Second.
second? Okay, then the three of us will vote since we were present. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. May I have a motion to adjourn,
So
please?
moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the meeting is adjourned.
I need to sign.
Yep. So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bob.
you.
But before anybody leaves, I just want to make sure we got all the motions signed
Yeah, I
properly.
didn't sign the
Yep.
second one.